here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Yes, I am back. Millennium News 24, the Interfaith talk show, and I have a special guest on. His name is Alan Smith, and we're going to be dealing with the issues concerning the non-for-profit, all right, because that's one of the things that we try to teach people so that way they can be fund ready, because there's so much governmental changes out there that people is really suffering. And of course, the Social Security offices are being shut down all over, and it's not even mentioned on the news, all right? And so the question is, the retired, the disabled, and the ones who are elderly, how are they going to be able to communicate with the administration of Social Security when the offices are being shut down all over the country? All right, up in New Rochelle, New York, or White Plains to New York, they're going to be shutting down the Social Security sometime at the end of May, which is the 31st. All right, so I don't know what's going on, why they're not associating this information to people. They're not sending out anything from the Social Security Administration offices, you know, like letters in the mail, letting them know who they can contact, who they can call, because you cannot go to these offices no more because they're shutting all these offices down across the country. And this is not something that the news is not talking about. So this is why non-for-profits are so important to set yourself up with, so that way you could be grant ready, because the hardship, such like with COVID that had happened, a lot of people can go back to work or work, period, because, you know, the country got hit very hard, you know, concerning the matter. So, no screen. Yes, so the issues are that we are dealing with, the non-for-profit that we have operating with is to be fund ready to help people who's in need. So my special guest is Alan Smith, and of course he's going to give you his background and what does he does or do, you know. So here's my guest, Alan Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, and Brother Bay, thank you for having me. And I want to send greetings to your esteemed guest and all who are attending today, and thank you for allowing this moment for us to share. And pursuant to your request of me, I still at my age, about 62 years old here, handle a lot of hats. I'm a senior pastor in a faith of believers that follow more of the Aramaean way than the statutory Catholic model of Christianity.
Yeah, agree. Yes.
And you know, we're just very excited to work together with all the faiths, and just seeing you know, everybody starting to come together. If it took this, then it's going to be worth it, you know, Brother Bay.
Yes.
So you know, so just so excited to work with yourself, my Muslim brothers, and you know, my Moor brothers.
Yes.
All around the planet. I'm down here in Chester County, which is just west of Philadelphia, and you know, I have a couple of indigenous brothers that are Moor brothers that I work with out here in a place called Coatesville, which is a small town that's a Philadelphia suburb. But a little bit about me. My background is in education, but I also have an engineering degree and a business degree. So my website is atsbusiness.com, and there you'll be able to find a lot out about me concerning the kind of projects I do. I do teach at a STEM Academy, engineering, where we're shaping young minds in cutting edge technologies, mainly in CAD and engineering and computer programming, to be able to not just follow traditional high school models, but to be able to impact their communities for that ultimate goal of building community equity. And so those students are dual enrolled also in my classroom, where I'm also an adjunct professor at Delaware County Community College down in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. So,
wow.
but a lot of the work I do is very community oriented. I use a lot of my skills in technology to do programming. I work with the indigenous movement on fintech, financial systems, and yeah, those are kind of things that are a little long in working, but we'll continue to work with that. But a lot of the continuous work I do is in this effort of helping nonprofit efforts in raising funds, primarily through grant writing. I've been writing grants going back to about 2008, and I've been able to write a variety of programmatic grants to being a part of large development grants. And so to this point, our conversation, specifically in New York, is that I've been able to develop an application that allows me to pull available resources from online sources and others. I have about 10 grants that I'm reviewing right now.
Beautiful.
Youth programs here in New York City to assist your mission. So,
beautiful.
Not to delay, if anybody has any questions or if you want to begin the conversation, we can start there.
Oh, well, you laid it out beautifully, Brother Allen. And the background and what you do is awesome, brother. It's very touching. And here you are in PA, and you're doing grants here in New York for the youth. And that's awesome that you are performing that service, because down in the Bronx, we have what you call the last Friday of the month of financial literacy class. And of course, I'm the one that, keeps that study group going, because I've studied finance for a period of 30 years, maybe even longer. And because finance is what literacy that we do need today, because there's just so much economic crunch going on. And of course, the low income is the ones who is catching it. People who is on rent stabilization grants, people who's on low income wages, and people who's on Section 8, so there are a bunch of veritable issues that our people have to depend on subsidies from the government in order to stabilize themselves here in the United States. But unfortunately, a lot of the monies through U.S. aid is going to foreign countries, and you have too much VA, veterans who need help, because not all veterans who have give this country their service and their life is really getting the benefit that they should get. Then you got the homeless in New York, it's very heavy, all right? And then unfortunately, when the migrants or the immigrants came over, all right, that even put more stress on the economy within the city of New York, let alone New York State, and of course around the country, So in the financial literacy study group that we have every last Friday of the month, one of the things that I brought up is to have a coalition of non-for-profits, all right, which we need, because then that way, if we have a coalition of non-for-profits, all right, for those who are in need, they can come to any one of the non-for-profits, all right, and meet the requirements to be able to get their help based upon whatever it may be. Saying, Brother Allen, so that's why it's so imperative that you come on today's show so people can be aware with the services that you offer, all right? So you can go some more further into it, because it's not going to be a Q&A session. It's just a dialogue just between me and you. So you can go deep into this grant, before you do that, this is what I want to bring out, because the federal government is cutting out so many grants, because I have one particular individual who I know personally. She just got a $1.6 million grant that she had put in for last year, and she's waiting for the award letter. All right, because she's, it's a government grant, that is, because she had a grant writer who does government contracts. All right, and that was shut down. All right, a lot of the federal grants is going to be shut down because of the Trump administration is trying to make a change, but at the same time, the people at large within the United States are the ones who's feeling it, even though the taxes is coming from their pocket from labor, but they are feeling it. They're not actually seeing the rewards of their labor because the rewards of their labor is going into foreign aid. All right. And so they're taking a big hit right now. So what do we do? All right. So like, for instance, the lunch program. I never knew that the lunch program in the United States is being donated from U.S. aid. So now this year is going to be the last year that the lunch programs, all right, all over the country is not going to get the aid in 2026. So now the states got to work into their treasury and compensate for school lunches that's not going to be aided by the federal grants, all right, which was started by the Black Panther Party, you know, back in the 50s and the 60s, all right? But the point is what I'm making is that this is where the coalition of non-for-profits, those who are listening should apply for a non-for-profit so you could be what? Grant ready from the private sectors, because even if you're not getting it from the government per se, the private sectors, there's so many hundreds of thousands of private sectors out there that when you can do grant writing, you can meet that requirement and still get that non-for-profit funded, so that way you can help your community, because the purpose of the non-for-profit is a community-based service to help the people in the community, since the government is going to fail us because of what's going on with these budget cuts, all right, that we need to take control of our own finances so we won't have to wait on the government, all right? So we don't know how the Social Security checks is going to be cut because all these employees are being laid off, all right? So that means there's going to be a slowdown in the processing, all right? So you may not even get it on the first, you know, of the month. So I just wanted to bring that out, Brother Allen.
Well, certainly that sets the table for a good conversation. You mentioned a lot of things there. The Trump level cuts. You mentioned, you know, what it takes to create a nonprofit. And then you mentioned this idea of nonprofits coming together to do some joint work. So I think I can address three of those three things. Just, you know, some may be better than others.
Yes.
But I do, believe it or not, have a pretty optimistic view of this, because you know, I'm not trying to call more, but if that's all they got, I think they underestimated us, Brother Bay.
Got you.
I think that you know, I think there's some other things working at it. You know, when you get into where we are pretty much, you know, positioned geographically, and you know, our Social Security numbers, whereby, you know, I think they set it up for their red line purposes to control our bond and that kind of thing, to monetize us.
True.
I think they didn't understand that the opposite thing could happen too. And
True.
You know, if we come together and put together large community trusts, even regional trusts, we can touch systemically with our own systems overnight. My estimation is 60 to 70% of us, because, you know, with all of our middle Social Security numbers being even, and then us being in a preponderance of the same census tracts, that's most of our population. So it won't take but a basic computer program and
Yes.
some knowledge of payment systems to distribute funds overnight to all of us that we put together. So I don't know how many people, I don't know if I might have spilled the beans here, but
not really. But listen, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. We're going to pick up what you left off. Very interesting. Very interesting point. We'll be right back. Commercial break. We should be going on a commercial break. We'll be right back. Well, it seems like we're not going to be able to get there, but I guess we can pick up on what you left off, because normally, if we usually have a commercial break, but apparently there's some technical difficulties. But you was bringing out some very interesting points, and so this coalition, across the country that we can, like you said, is a system where you can put some time.
Welcome to Millennium News 24, your trusted source for accurate, unbiased news. We're here to bring you the stories that matter most from America and around the world with integrity and a commitment to truth. In today's world, where misinformation can easily spread, having access to reliable news is more important than ever. At Millennium News 24, we aim to cut through the noise by delivering clear, fact-based reporting. Whether you're following major events or looking for in-depth analysis, we are here to serve you with transparency and respect for all communities regardless of color, wealth, or religion. This beautiful America was built by the resilience of its people, immigrants, entrepreneurs, doctors, and everyday individuals working together to create something great. It's this spirit that inspires us to provide you with news that's inclusive, honest, and relevant. We believe that informed citizens are the foundation of a strong society, and we strive to give you the knowledge you need to make a difference. From breaking news to insightful features, we bring you comprehensive coverage on politics, economics, health, culture, and much more. We believe that everyone deserves access to the truth, and we are proud to be a part of a global network that connects people through information. Stay informed by following us on your devices, including iOS, Android, Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, and Smart TVS. And for global access, we're also available on Horizon Satellite. Visit us at www.millenniumtv24.com or www.millenniumnews24.com to stay updated at Millennium News 24. Our mission is to promote unity, understanding, and progress in a rapidly changing world. Join us as we work to inspire positive action through the power of truth. Thank you for watching. Follow us, subscribe, and stay informed.
Yes, and we back with our guests, and we're going to pick up for where we left off. You was bringing up some very interesting points, Brother Allen, concerning the fact that there's ways where we can do a coalition of non-for-profits and have a system set up for payment for those who are in need across this country. So that's just what I was studying in this financial literacy class every Friday. The last Friday of the month, pardon me. And what you brought up would definitely be of great service to that, because we need to set up these non-for-profits across the country as a coalition, because we can see that people is going to be effectuated financially. So we don't even know what's going to happen with the Social Security Administration coming, offices being reopened. We just don't know. So we have to have another plan of action, and this is what you were talking about. So I'll let you pick it up from there, Brother Allen.
Sure. I think that the technology does exist for us to put together payment systems that enable us to touch the those who are struggling the most from our communities. And they're based upon the census tracts that they've laid out and the Social Security system, where the Social Security numbers by code are broken down by what they call race. And again, I didn't think that they thought that we would be thinking like we are now, and that's something that we need to continue to move. I think that a lot of it, the more that we just work together and work not so much in the public space of it all, but in concert, I believe we're going to be fine. That's number one. With the technology moving the way it is now, with the open systems, with some of the work that preceded the last two presidents by President Obama, with the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People, and where the American people of color, formerly known as African Americans and Negro, if you will.
Yeah, that's the term.
In my opinion, only Brown University has come forward and mentioned that 12 million slaves from Africa were mixed together with about 5.5 million natives. That makes every African American that they call African American technically about 35% to 60% native if your family goes back to the 1800s. So there's no ancestry.com or blood test. It is what it is, and that gives us all day long first right to this land. And I think that it's like a Juneteenth. The only people that don't really know it is us. But
True.
But trust that Donald Trump knows it, and
question.
And all of those who are trying to preserve their way, they know that, and you'll hear the reference to Obama, that a lot of his policies, and some were not the best, but some of them he knocked it out the park. And this is one where they can't reverse it. It's an international move, and it's just there for us to. I like the idea of moving through nonprofit means, Brother Bay, because you can exact every sector of your community, and it keeps the wolves out because it's nonprofit. So you can end up reestablishing everything from banks to healthcare to, of course, your youth programs, your housing, through the nonprofit wing. You can, through grants, and then also through, your own person of title, if the community is strong enough, establish its own funding. Like you guys are working with the More Coin. I applaud that. And all of these indigenous level types of currencies and funding, we're going to be just fine if we continue in that path, and staying on that humble side with the nonprofit is great. So what does it take to really get a nonprofit going so that you can join this coalition? Well, if you have an idea that does fit the categories of what nonprofit work would be, and we'll talk about that if time permits, then you can, for as little as $400, create a basic nonprofit, with most states not charging a lot to form your nonprofit articles of incorporation, which is the first document that you would need to create. Here in Pennsylvania, the nonprofit articles of incorporation is $125. In Delaware, it's under $100. And so with that, once those articles are approved, then you would get an EIN from the IRS, which is free and does not cost anything. And then I recommend, if you do not and have not targeted or have any promise from anyone of any kind of grant, I recommend filing the 501c3 EZ application, which is just $275. And as long as, the only ones that I've seen fail on that, or in that application, are people who try to bring in a for-profit name and then use that same name as the EZ application. And then others who are offering offering financial, believe it or not, financial, I wouldn't say literacy. I think that would pass, but financial services usually will get snagged. But pretty much anything other nonprofit that is for the uplift of the community, those uses would pass. And out of COVID, the easy process was slowed down. We saw some applications delayed as much as a year and a half. It was so slow, but within the last year, the window has the services of the IRS have opened back up. Again, we don't know what this president is going to do concerning that staffing, but as it's going now, the last nonprofits that I've done in the last 4 months have been approved inside of 6 weeks. So the timetable is now, and I totally applaud your national call to join a coalition. As a matter of fact,
thank you, brother.
Today, join my Coatesville Community Development Corporation into the coalition. It's official. Okay, so
thank you, brother. Great gratitude, brother, because it's needed. Because again, when you, like, for instance, there's a book that Eric Stevenson, who is the reason why I'm here on this platform, told me about a book called On the Laps of God. And it was a serious major riot in Arkansas where the Black Farmers Association, right, was being destroyed by white landowners. All right. And there's more that I know out in Arizona. His people live out there during the time of the riot, and the year was 1919, and the Black Farmers Association was putting their coalition together, all right, so that way they can be a service of our people back then. And so we notice there's a reoccurrence of us always trying to galvanize our people's financial stability. That's what it is, galvanizing our people's financial stability, so that way we won't have to suffer. Because even the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, welfare spelled backwards means farewell. Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated that, because when the welfare system came out after the Great Depression of 1929, all right, when Roosevelt was saying that we're going to put a chicken in everybody's pot, he wasn't talking about us. He was talking about folks who don't look like us, all right, which was in heavy poverty. But how we were surviving? Well, we were landowners, and sharecroppers. So we had ways to sustain ourselves during that time. Even my grandfather, which was told to me by my mom, during the Great Depression of 1929, he was bringing home $400 a week, during the Great Depression, because he was a bricklayer and he makes his own bricks. And my mom told me these things. And so we had different ways of surviving during the Great Depression. All right. But then what I learned from another gentleman named Atu Malako, who's right now an ancestor, what I learned from him is that when he was going through some trials and tribulations financially in, of course, Mount Vernon, New York, social services to visit his house and was threatened to take away his wife and children and throwing them in jail because he wouldn't put them on social services, on welfare. I would never forget this. And he refused to be on welfare. So he was telling them, give him 2 weeks, he's going to look for a job. Things were so tight. He was telling me that he would take a boiled egg and a bottle of water, when he went to go look for work. And finally he got work. All right. Now, there was a TV show back in the days that some of us may remember it because of our age. All right. Was Claudine, with James Earl Jones. Mm-hmm. Fell in love with Claudine, and she was on social services. So the brother had so much love for the sister that he was buying her things, television, dining room set, whatever that it was needed to sustain her and her children. Right. But when social services came to the house, she had to hide all those things. Remember that? And Claudine, you can do that right now and check that out. All right. So again, to me, I noticed that this whole system is designed to keep our people in poverty. But I'm annoyed with our brothers and sisters who are billionaires because we don't have to be in this condition. I mean, they are doing some work out there. Don't get me wrong. We got brothers out there, who's hundreds of millions of dollars, who would do something like Jordan have done stuff, Shaq have done stuff, and others have done things, but we don't see it on a large scale. Here we are stalling small, but thinking big on the large scale to help our people at large. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it came to me to say, you know what? We need a coalition of non-for-profits so we can fund our economic stability in our community. All right. Now it's interesting because who came up with the 501c3 was Lyndon Baines Johnson. All right. He did that to keep the churches in check. All right. But I'm saying that we can use this as it was used as something as a negative towards us. We can use it as a positive. All right. Because it was not only just for the churches, but it was also for charitable organizations. All right. And that's what we need. All right. And again, the payment plan that you stated, brother, that can make the payment is not going to go directly to the one who's in need. It's going to go to those agencies. All right. Because we don't want nobody to be able to misuse the funds, because we have to be held accountable of how those funds are being used so we can continue to get the grant. All right. So if you have any electric bill that you cannot pay because you lost a job or your income is not great enough and the electric bill is going up, we can take care of that. All right. If you got a mortgage situation, everything would be paid directly to the company who's bringing these claims against you as a creditor. You see what I'm saying? So we will be organized. This is not something that we're going to just be freely handing out just to say that this is just going to be free money. No, this is not something to be saying that it's going to be free as a handout. No, this is to create and help economic stability. It's going to complement. It's going to be like a supplement to what you have. All right. So we're going to have to see what the qualifications that you may have and what your needs are. And it's going to go right directly to the creditor. So that way, no one can say that the funds from the non-for-profit is being misappropriated, because that's what happened to us when we had our own bank. The Freedmen's Savings Bank during the time of Frederick Douglass was ran by these European Americans here as trustees, and they deliberately destroyed our bank. And where's our bank now today? That was specifically for us. No other ethnic group of people that bank was for, but for us, because we had 300 to 400 years of free labor. And how was we going to bring up our financial stability in this society? All right. And the Freedmen Savings Bank was to do that for us. All right. So now, where is that bank? That bank was been destroyed by white men and women who were trustees over, unfortunately, of our bank, which that really bothers me, because why are we allowing our enemies to control over our finances? That's the issue. So now that bank has been absorbed into the United States Treasury. All right. Anybody can Google the Freedmen's Bank, and you're going to see that it's the United States Treasury in Washington, D.C. See, a lot of people don't know this.
Right on the same footprint.
Yes, on the same footprint. So our bank, to sustain us, has been absorbed because of the mismanagement and appropriation and the bad loans that these white trustees had mismanaged our bank. All right. And I'm really was bothered by that, because we didn't take the initiative to control our own banks and have our own trustees, knowing that this is a need that we had needed back at that particular time. And even the Freedmen's Bureau, which was a record of our bureau. All right. We didn't need the FBI bureau, right? Because we had our own bureau, right? That was taken over by the Mormons. The Mormons have no business having our bureau. And we is not aware of these things. And then again, Brother Allen, we got congressmen, women, and senators who look like me and you, and they never address these issues. They never address these issues. So we are really in a position to get back to the position that we were and move on it so we don't have to be a burden to the government, because so many of our women is on public assistance with children, because of the hardship, So I think it was very important, brother, that I bring out these facts,
They are fact. And to your point, this by their indigenous name, the Scythian, that through Europe, even though our Moor brothers had been there and are the indigenous there.
All right.
Speaking to the graciousness of the Moors, allowed them to populate through the Caucasus Mountains as they were savagely chased there at their defeat of the Scythian Empire.
Mm-hmm. And you hold that thought because we're supposed to be going on commercial break.
Okay.
We're definitely going to come back.
Yeah.
So we should be going on commercial break as we speak. So our viewers, we're supposed to be going on commercial break. Seems to be some technical issues going on right now.
Hello viewers, you are watching Millennium News 24. America and global villages seen to America independence built by immigrants, manufacturers, roads, highways, educations, healthcare, IT, scientists, space, business development to all thousands of multimedia and all major social media platforms and news network in America. Millennium News 24, one of truthfully news networks in America and global news organizations. Please watch, follow and subscribe. We are in iOS and Android devices, Roku, Amazon, Apple devices, all smart TV, globally Horizon satellite, social media Millennium News 24, Millennium TV 24. Website www.millenniumnews24.com and www.millenniumtv24.com. Thank you.
Yes, we are back with our special guest, Alan Smith, coming out of the PA territory and region. And of course, we're going to pick up where he just left off. So as you were, Brother Alan.
Sure. I was speaking of
the indigenous.
The indigenous, the last, really the unmelanated is regarded as the last in line of the indigenous chain. And so, the behavior of raiding and looting, as you know, goes back to everything from trying to conceal their who they are by creating, an Egyptian-like type people called Greeks, to taking a whole faith and turning it into a war machine called the Christian faith, the Catholic Church, Constantine and his stuff around 350. After everything before that was just a peaceful movement following Yeshua, the Anointed One, and all of these things were, the barbaric raiding and looting kinds of thing that really didn't take heed until those years of suffrage there in Europe, where they, through those, 1,000 years there, raided and looted against each other.
True.
So if it's me and you fighting, you're my kin and I'm your kin, and we hate and fight each other for hundreds of years, and our living becomes so deprived that our average lifespan is 32 years, and there's disease and there's pestilence, and the very gondolas that you pay thousands of dollars to ride down the day were sewers back in those days, and their attempt to copy the kings and the queens of our ancestors. They create their own type of systems, learned by the Moors and these kinds of things. Were very gracious people, navigators of the sea. I mean, this globe, this planet, they had it down. Every part of it, the Moors had it.
Yes.
So go on with all this stuff, and so here they get them to navigate over to this land called Americanos, and they meet, our ancestors,
That's right here on this land.
who were already here, all up and down this eastern seaboard, and we behaved the same way because they came over. There was evidence of cannibalism. They were eating each other.
Yes.
And it wasn't this beautiful thing about Christopher Columbus and the pilgrims and all this. It was an ugly, horrid thing. And the indigenous of the land said, "You're not going to make it back this winter. Let us go ahead and stay here." So, so this whole thing of colonialism is a continual occupation.
Yes.
That the understudy is, let's bring it full circle to today, is predicated and exists upon our natural calm nature. Our natural calm. We're a non-warring people. We really don't even like to fight each other. Our first mindset is to work with the land that the Creator has given us to create and live off and promote family. I don't believe we ever will become barbaric and raiders. Although there was some in the past that tried it, it just isn't our way.
It's interesting you saying that, Brother Allen. I do a lot of treaty studies. And again, there was a treaty of 1677 that was a peace treaty. And it was between the Earth Mother and the chief here, who would be considered to be classified as the king and queen. And it's just interesting that when you read the 1677 treaty, all right, they did acknowledge the Pamunkey Nation, where they were located, was they called Virginia. All right, that place was not called Virginia, but when the European invaders came in, they came in contact with the Pamunkey Queen and King, as they would say. And there was the treaty with Great Britain and the Pamunkey Nation. But what was in, of course, Pocahontas and them was a part of that. They came out of that same Pamunkey Nation. But the issue that I'm drawing is that when it came to the treaty, they used English language to describe the title of the indigenous hierarchy here, and these treaties could be misleading, all right, because they're not using the language of the indigenous people. They're using their language as an invader, and we have to be very careful, because when someone else is defining your reality, your culture, your spirituality, that becomes a problem. That becomes a major problem, because then they can invade on you and say that you agree with this. But when it came to the Pamunkey Nation and the other indigenous nations here in this land, they used to use Wam, meaning that was their treaty. It was a belt that tied two nations together to settle in peace with each other. You say cultivate the land in peace with each other. So it's interesting that you stated that we was a peaceful people, because the Pomwam was a treaty that was among us, but they didn't use the word treaty. They used Pomwam, all right, which is a tie-in of two nations that they're going to settle together peacefully, all right? But when the European, when he comes with his treaty is not a treaty of peace. It's a way of infiltrating and invading and killing up the indigenous people and taking over their land. That's what the European treaty was technically about. Because why would we want to get in treaty with them when we're not in war with them?
Right.
See?
So, they brought no assets. They brought no assets with them.
Exactly.
We had it. We are the oldest, and we were the first ones they saw. So that's why the dark ones seemingly disappeared. The ones that they didn't kill, there were some tribes that still did exist more south and maybe high up north there, but pretty much they either killed or enslaved those dark natives together with Africans,
and raped the hybrid.
And the thing of it is they did a horrible job of covering it, because if you look in their current statute of Standard Form 181, which is the document of ethnicities, you probably know it well with your background in finance.
In law.
If you look at the document behind it, they don't name it. The document behind it is a different OMB number so that it separates, so people don't read it.
That's true.
But when you read it, when they called us Negro, that definition really meant the mix of the people. They could never just call us African slaves.
That's true.
That's true. They are totally caught. And that's the biggest, in my opinion, to them, the biggest fear is that this new Juneteenth, that African Americans, I got to say it quote, because that's not my term.
That's true.
The African Americans will wake up and all in one moment find out that they have first right to this land. When that happens, it's all deals off.
Yes, that's right.
And I like to say that if Lincoln freed the slaves, Obama gave them back their land with the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People. That who reads that document and then says it's non-binding? Who creates a document where they admit to everything that they did against the indigenous, including the treaties, including the land, including everything, and admit it, and that the indigenous have the first say, and then say it's non-binding? Well, of course, this thing where Thomas Jefferson, instead of listening to William Penn, who was going to do more of international commerce law, no confiscation, said we're going to use the King's edict and use the discovery doctrine. And so we, the people, agree to occupy this land, even though it's not ours. And so is that behavior. So we can't expect that leopard to not change, to change its spots. It's still going to raid and loot, and to this day going to play whatever side fits them. It's mind-boggling to us because we still have a morality. Show me the most hardened brother, and he still has some kind of morality of right and wrong.
Interesting you saying that, because I was dialoguing earlier with a brother Amun who's been on this show before, and I was telling him that I'm not a Trump supporter, but I respect some of the things that he's exposing, because he's exposing the corruption, the embezzlement, the misappropriation of funds that belongs to the, as they call, the American public at large. All right. And they're saying, oh, this guy is destroying the economy. All right. Especially with the tariff war. But at the same time, the economy was being destroyed even before Trump got into office. All right. The question is, how long is this so-called fabric that's going to hold up when you got cankerworms eating at the fabric, the fabric of this country's economy, raising the debt ceiling, keep putting out a breadbasket of the taxpayers' monies to foreign countries. When is this system is going to collapse? Because every nation in the past have collapsed one way or the other. So how long is this going to last? I mean, United States is a little over 200 years of age. Is it going to make 300? You follow me? I don't even see this country making 300 in age. You know what I'm saying, Alan?
It's not been that long.
True.
It seems go ahead. Did I interrupt? Go ahead.
Yes. No, as you were.
Oh, sure. In our generation, we've seen nothing but white supremacy, but they really have not been in charge very long. They're still pretty neophyte.
True.
In terms of, like, what is it? Okay, you guys are in charge. What is this culture? What's the history book going to say about this last 200 years?
True.
There were empires that lasted a whole lot longer than this. So, and they're cracking at the seams. Right. To your point, you're totally correct, brother. Because the engineer side of me cringes when I ride down the streets. Like from what me and you used to know as the hood.
True.
I'm seeing, war's prophecy that the world is a ghetto. I'm seeing that thing is coming to pass because
the desolation.
Yes. You got bridges falling apart. You got streets, infrastructure. A brother was telling me, don't eat the fruits and vegetables out the grocery store because they're from, foreign lands where the water's not clean, and probably not totally wrong, but I had to, bring him up to date and say, tell me what water in America running out of tap will you drink now? And I said, your statement was probably locked straight 30 years ago.
True.
But we're headed into a time where these people who are these oligarchs, they could care less even about their own. But see, we already know that. The rate they could care about their own kin. They could care less about their own kin.
True.
And so you're seeing suffrage. And where I live, there's this place is under gentrification, and I'm watching white folk that were like, maybe they worked in machine shops and stuff all their life, and they had bought property, maybe 10, 15 acres of wooded area, and they cleaned off maybe an acre and built a ranch home. And now these people are seniors and losing their houses because the school district is raising the taxes.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching them, as well as minorities and veterans, lose their home. This is the new gentrification.
I just want to share something with you, though. It's very important that I say this so you can continue. When my mom was around and alive, a lot of our elderly sisters and brothers who owned property don't know about the homestead that really go back to 1862. That was changed because you had to be 21 years of age. You paid the fee, and you had to be in the property for at least 5 years to qualify for the homestead. So it's interesting you saying that. And I think it's very important that I say this so you can continue, that it's called in New York, the STAR program. Now, in other states and counties, they may call it a different name. But when you reach the age of 62, because they removed it from 21 to 62, and then you can apply for property exemption up to a certain amount where you don't have to worry about property tax no more, brother. And the reason why I'm saying this, because you brought up a very good point, Alan, because our brothers and sisters from 62 on up, and this is across the country, is losing their property left and right for property tax. And that, again, that's another invasion to make you homeless, all right? Not to have such long-term ownership of the property to be passed down from one generation to the next generation. So this was something that they don't tell you about. You would think that those tax assessors office would contact the homeowners that when they reach the age of 62, that they can put in for homestead where they can be exempt from taxes. All right, property taxes, that is, to be specific. All right. So just like the Social Security, they'll contact you when you're 62, when you're eligible for Social Security. If you can wait till 67, they'll say you get more in 67 than you would get in 62. But why is the tax assessor's office in all counties across the country don't notify those who have made 62 to say, here's the form, here's the application, fill this out so you could be tax exempt from the property. Very important, because you just triggered my thought. So they continue to want your taxes. So technically, anybody who's over 62 is still paying property tax. That's a surplus. As you were, brother, but please pardon me for that.
Well, that's wonderful information, because again, as we already know, baked within their own statutes, there were these things that are these things that are still yet not discoverable by us.
Yes.
And we did previously participate in these things. But, through those years where, they did all kinds of things to divert the information, from our
Yes.
communities and couldn't wait really to create the the things of Johnson all the way through Reagan, when it came to affordable housing and all these kinds of things to kind of keep our minds away from ownership as they, stole the asset, or
Right.
I'll say continue to occupy the asset.
That's right.
If you know and go to them, they kind of get red and say, well, you're right, but what are you going to do about it?
Give your contact information again, Brother Tim, for those who may, Brother Allen, who may want the non-for-profit setups, because we want to come out to a closing. So I want to make sure your information is getting out there before we close.
Sure. You can reach me, Allen Smith, ALLEN Smith, at ATS Business 26. That's ATS Business 26 at gmail.com. You can also reach out to me on my website, which is atsbusiness.com. atsbusiness.com. I did want to quickly share for those who are just a real quick tutorial on grant writing.
Yes.
For those who have been wanting to do it, and you might have seen it as something very difficult. It really isn't. And especially with AI out there today that can assist you with these things. A basic grant application has primarily three sections. That is your project narrative. That's where you're basically describing everything about what you want to do and why you should have that money. And then that it should be something called a statement of need, which is really your funding request.
Well, maybe we need to hold a class on this, for those who are interested and they can reach you, because we're about to close out, and I know you got so much information, and I'm definitely going to bring you back.
Okay.
Right? I appreciate you coming on. All right, brother.
Yeah.
It's really an honor, because we're looking to help the people at large.
All mine, brother. Truly.
All right. So we're going to be closing out, y'all, and we'll be back next Friday. All right. So thank you for your viewers who is listening, and thank you for your support. All right. And you can reach out to Brother Allen Smith, so we want to create this coalition. All right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right, brother.